he declared his intention to perform the reincarnation ritual with His Majesty. Vance wished to witness a world free of conflict beside the person he addressed, no matter the cost. 1,000 years later, the strongest reincarnated guardian knight must enroll in a magic school filled with beautiful young girls to protect his lord. Someone called out to Lloyd, asking him to wait. A character offered to handle the trivial duties, noting the reports were all for Mother. Another character volunteered to take the reports, mentioning they planned to meet Mother anyway. The speaker reflected on the 1,000 years since their previous life and 8 years since receiving a new one. Vance introduced himself as the escort knight of the former Sky Empire, now living in the mansion under the name Lord. A series of knocks echoed on a door, which then opened. Someone politely apologized for the intrusion. A character greeted Vance, identifying Muria as the fearless head of countless families, skilled in love and seduction with pink mana, and Vance's adoptive mother. The blushing woman apologized for using magic, explaining her strong mana could accidentally activate charm spells. She praised Vance, noting he successfully defended against her spell despite her surprise. Vance apologized to his mother for his unconscious reaction, but she told him not to be modest. His mother observed that Vance's mana was colorless and transparent, yet strong enough to block her spell. She sighed, feeling she still had a long way to go as a mother for making him so cautious. Vance expressed gratitude for her taking him out of the monastery, as he was unrelated to her. He vowed to do anything he could for his mother in return. His mother playfully chided him for making her too happy, causing him to cry out that it hurt. A new voice interrupted, asking what the two of them were doing. The speaker noted that Kanan was monopolizing their mother and getting spoiled, then apologized for just taking a breath. Kanan, identified as the daughter of Muria with amber white healing mana, was upset that she had to wait. The speaker then invited Kanan to come over as well. Vance stood alone, facing an unseen threat. He affirmed his resolve, ready to face whatever came next. Victor mused that his younger sister, Kanan, was especially attached to their mother, but he felt his own connection to their mother seemed different. A woman's voice instructed someone to listen carefully. Marietson prepared tea, suggesting the other person go drink some, who gratefully accepted. Kanan was asked by her mother if she would try calling Lloyd brother instead of Lloyd. Kanan replied that if something happened to make her want to call him that, she would. Her mother then commented that Lloyd was still very kind, but she added that although Lloyd possessed magic abilities, he did not display them. Someone inquired if that was true, recalling an earlier observation. The other person confirmed they didn't even know Lloyd's mana color, and even if it were transparent, its attribute remained unknown. The silver-haired boy wondered about the magic of the person he addressed as Loud. He expressed a desire to see that magic himself if the chance arose. The woman in red declared her wish to get along with Kanan, but firmly stated she would never give up their mother. She pondered how she could finally have a pleasant conversation with Kanan. Deciding to enjoy her tea, she bid farewell for the moment. A clinking sound accompanied the presentation of the first flush Sentia tea. The recipient offered a simple thank you. The woman, identified as Marietta, the head maid and education manager for the Fearless family, was praised for her delicious teas. Marietta chuckled, acknowledging the compliment about knowing what to say. She then invited the other person to join her, assuring them not to mind the maids. Smiling, the guest expressed learning much from Marietta and asked to be taught about tea, preferably while drinking it together. Marietta considered it her loss, noting the guest's skill at invitations and her desire for the guest to rest. The silver-haired boy offered Vance a rock candy stick, explaining it was a special product from the human empire. He then described how the imported Saint Empire leaves, when rolled as first flush, offered the flavor of young grass and the scent of spring. The boy expressed gratitude for enjoying tea from various countries, attributing it to flourishing trade. He explained that 1,000 years ago, the armistice barrier was deployed, which stopped the conflict between the 7 countries. The narration shifted to 1,000 years ago. The armored knight recalled being a knight of the Sky Empire during the conflict and meeting the Empress, Arsmelia Rune Mythia. He stated that the Empress's figure and everything about her resonated with his pride and dignity as a knight. He then explained that after that, to end the conflict, she deployed the armistice barrier at the risk of her own life. However, that life-consuming magic seized some of her lifespan. There, Arsmelia, and he decided to be reborn by using the ritual of reincarnation. Their goal was to see a world without conflict with their own eyes. 1,000 years had passed since then, Victor reflected. He had been reborn and adopted by the Muria Countess family, beginning a new life. Yet even in this new existence, he continued his search. Victor yearned to see this world with Arsmelia, the one he was still looking for. Lloyd's attendant called out to him, urging him to open his eyes. The attendant noted that Lloyd seemed lost in deep thought again, but dismissed it. Lloyd admitted he had many things on his mind lately, which wasn't entirely untrue. The attendant inquired if his thoughts were about improving his relationship with Canon. Lloyd was startled, wondering if the attendant could read his mind as the guest's arrival neared. The attendant suggested Lloyd have a chat with Canon while they waited for the guest. He suggested a private conversation between just the two of them would be far more pleasant. Lloyd agreed, realizing that was indeed the wisest course of action. The silver-haired girl offered Marietson profuse thanks. Victor looked up, a flicker of recognition crossing his face at the name Bill. A faint blush touched the silver-haired girl's cheeks. Victor offered Canon a quick apology. Lloyd received thanks for his recent actions, even after the incident. The armored knight strode past the others without a word. The silver-haired boy stopped abruptly, telling someone to step back. After a sudden movement, he apologized quickly, telling them not to be so careful. Recalling how Arsmelia had been angered, he mused that being too careful was unnecessary. With a sigh, he called himself a failure and admitted he was upset. Her irritation evident, Canon stated that guests always encroached on her precious time with their mother. Frustration coloring her voice, Canon lamented how guests consistently stole moments with their mother. As guests arrived, Canon shrank back slightly, her smile faltering. Victor observed Canon's affection for their mother, confirming her deep love, which he shared. A knock echoed through the room. A man with a smirk announced himself as Victor Rosewald, the elder son of Viscount Muria. Victor Rosewald greeted Canon, noting her cheerful disposition. He then addressed Victor, remarking on his energetic state while seemingly ignoring Canon. Victor excused himself, stating he would retire to his room after the initial greetings. Victor Rosewald then declared his intention to discuss matters with Canon. He specified the discussion would concern Canon's magical strength. Canon questioned what kind of discussion it would be regarding her magic. Victor Rosewald stated that as Countess Muria's child, Canon should possess exceptional innate magical talent. He expressed a desire to witness that power, as someone from a family loyal to the Countess. The woman in red observed Canon, noting her resemblance to Countess Muria and her eventual succession. A wide grin spread across her face. She declared Canon didn't need to respond to such an unsuitable provocation. The woman in red stated this was not a suitable place for their confrontation. She then realized Canon intended to fight regardless of the location. The woman in red asked how Canon expected her to showcase her strength. Her grin widened as she spoke. She reiterated that this was not a good place for the encounter. The woman in red suggested they move elsewhere to continue their conversation. She announced a mana test, a sacred family tradition for assessing one's strength. The woman questioned Kanan's defensive stance, stating there was no need for a fight, only to display her power. Victor watched, a flicker of concern crossing his face. Lloyd questioned why the other two had accompanied them. He pointed out the mana test was not a fight, making their presence unnecessary. The scarred man huffed, saying it wasn't his business but he'd permit it if they didn't interfere. He suspected Victor's intentions went beyond merely meeting Kanan, bringing her to this remote forest. Lloyd proposed he would also take the mana test, asking for a favor if he won at dawn. Victor seemed surprised, asking if Lloyd simply wanted to witness his magic. Lloyd explained a direct comparison was the easiest way to gauge Victor's magic and determine superiority. He then pressed Victor, reminding him he had already agreed and could not back out now. Victor let out a dismissive snort, his expression hardening. He declared his disapproval of people who behaved in such a manner. A low chuckle escaped Victor as he confirmed the arrangement was settled, regardless of any objections. Vance braced himself as an unseen force commanded him to unleash his power. A voice questioned the wisdom of proceeding, then a sudden cry erupted. A shocked gasp escaped someone's lips. Another sharp cry of surprise echoed through the space. A disbelieving question about an identity was stammered out. The speaker rebuked their opponent for unfairly unleashing an evil spirit, questioning their nobility. They continued to question if such actions fit the opponent's haughty definition of nobility. Victor's name was called out, drawing his attention. Someone questioned why Victor was interfering when he was supposed to stay out of it. The speaker accused Victor of following them and offering unnecessary support, ruining the fairness of the duel. Vance declared he would protect Kanan, even breaking rules if the duel involved cowardly methods. He emphasized that Kanan was his precious family. The opponent called Vance a mongrel, questioning his unsteady stance. The opponent chuckled, stating he understood something. He commented that he could only feel weak mana from Vance. The opponent asked if there was no color to be seen around Vance. He questioned Vance's status as a noble. The opponent mused about a countess' child picked up without mana, mentioning Murayasama and the Void. Kanan pleaded with Victor not to say any more mean things about her brother. Victor looked at Kanan, his expression shifting. The opponent retorted that being from a countess family didn't grant Vance special privileges. Victor scoffed at the idea of Vance playing at being a family, calling it a pathetic act. As the spell surged, Vance trembled violently. His eyes wide with shock, Vance gasped. With his mana draining away, Vance cried out. The magic item had gone out of control, and Vance could no longer contain the evil spirit. Vance marveled at the vibrant, swirling colors before him. Vance felt a surge of power. Victor urged Kanan to trust him, even if only a little, as he prepared to fight. Kanan protested, her voice filled with disbelief. Acknowledging the limitations of his healing magic against the multi-attribute evil spirit, Victor devised a strategy. Vowing to share Kanan's pain, Victor extended his hand, urging her to fight alongside him. Realizing brute force wouldn't work against the spirit's shifting attributes, Victor initiated a counterattack. Vance recoiled, his eyes wide as he accused Kanan of mocking him. Hiyori gasped, noticing her mana had inexplicably changed color. Vance demanded to know what Kanan was sneakily doing, a hint of desperation in his voice. He questioned if Kanan was laughing at him, calling her name directly. A soft glow emanated from Hiyori. A fire shield flickered into existence, baffling observers who believed she could only heal. Kanan recognized the magic as her brother's. Someone exclaimed in disbelief, referring to a loli. Despite the struggle, Kanon managed a faint breath, her efforts continuing. The armored knight dismissed Hayori's fire, stating it would be extinguished by his wind. He repeated his assertion that her small flame would be erased by his wind. The armored knight stared in disbelief, realizing Hiyori had dodged his attack, and it had been called off. Vance questioned how his opponent could wield multiple colored shields when he hadn't seen any color before. His opponent explained that the absence of color allowed him to change it to anything he desired. Victor warned Kanon that the next evil spirit was an earth type and instructed her to dodge its attack on her foot so they could cancel the spell. Kanon marveled at Victor's foresight, praising his amazing abilities since earlier. Victor encouraged Kanon to calm down, feel the flow, and trust her body, assuring her she could do it. Kanon cried out, worried about the approaching water and darkness evil spirits. Someone questioned if the shield's wind attribute had been used to lift the spirits. Water and darkness spirits pressed their attack. Victor stated that several crucial tasks with the RROO remained. He reiterated that important RROO tasks were pending as the spirits assailed them with Bash, Splash, Blizz, and Foosh. Magical energies flared around Vance as he braced for an incoming spell. The fight concluded. A voice announced the confrontation's end, addressing Victor. Victor countered that his father's method ensured victory over Kanon. The speaker acknowledged Victor's borrowed power, noting Kanon's own magic had subdued the spirits. Upon reviewing the mana test results, Victor found them conclusive, with Lloyd's involvement noted. Challenging the circumstances, Victor cried out, questioning if his brother would have been present without the other's influence. When confronted, Victor was asked how much longer he would abandon the path of chivalry. Victor issued a challenge for a one-on-one duel with Lloyd, vowing no forgiveness. The project organizers made a plea for donations to fund the 6 Princesses Fall in Love with God Guardian initiative. To uphold his honor, Victor declared he would return to the path of chivalry by dawn. Victor exclaimed that Lloyd wouldn't have been there without someone's presence, marking the end of Chapter 2. Vance felt his muscles tense and bones creak as he drew his short sword, channeling immense strength. He perceived the flow of energy, a visible current guiding his movements. Vance let the momentum carry him, dodging a collision with ease as he executed his first technique. He deflected the incoming spell, a void of unarmed knight's shield nullifying the attack. A low rumbling sound echoed through the area. Stammering, the attacker seemed taken aback by Vance's defense. Calling Vance a monster, the attacker's voice cracked with disbelief. Backing away slowly, the attacker's confidence dissolved into panic. Suddenly, a voice cried out, calling for Vance, brother. Vance reassured the speaker, claiming he was fine despite a little blood loss. He recognized the voice and gasped, Kanon. Kanon insisted that if Vance was hurt, she felt the pain acutely. A single exclamation mark hung in the air, signifying a sudden, impactful event. The woman in red noted that healing magic was being used, despite the caster's clear exhaustion from the recent fight. She then commented that the caster truly was an angel. A chaotic jumble of sounds and exclamations filled the panel, indicating extreme distress or surprise. The silver-haired girl, Nico, exclaimed that she had been fighting desperately and suddenly heard her brother's voice in her head, realizing he had heard her thoughts. Nico then cried out that her magic had completely merged with her brother's, demanding to know what he had done. The brother explained mana sympathy, a phenomenon linking their hearts and allowing thought-based communication, marveling at their incredible connection. He revealed they had formed a guardian contract, a concept that surprised Nico. He explained that Nico's belief had allowed him to draw out Kanon's strength by combining their mana, a bond that still held. The brother thanked Nico for fighting with him and vowed to always protect her, promising to defend her if she ever faced danger. Nico responded with her own vow, declaring she would protect him too. Nico emphatically stated that if he were in danger, she would protect him, brother. The boy with slightly grown silver hair promised Kanon he would protect her until adulthood, more than she could protect herself. A woman's distressed laughter and whimpers filled the air. Someone suggested returning to the mansion to consider Victor's situation, followed by a loud sound. A faint, indistinct statement trailed off, hinting at something left unsaid. The woman in red expressed relief, stating that seeing them both safe was paramount. An urgent command was given to report an incident to Muriya-sama and hurry to rescue Victor from the forest. The speaker informed someone that Muriya-sama would speak personally with Viscount Rosewald and instructed them to return. A request was made to accompany them, expressing a desire to join the group. An instruction was given to sit on a specific chair, followed by a soft sound. It was explained that pouring mana into the magic circle would connect to an adjoining room, allowing eavesdropping. The woman in red assured the silver-haired boy that the record room was for observing the family head. She explained that while it was early for him to know, Muriya-sama acknowledged his talent. She wished for him to be aware of the true duties of the family head, if possible. Victor softly uttered "Mother." The woman in red then stated she wished to discuss the monthly expense reports. She pointed out that Viscount Rosewald, Victor's father, had developed his fiefdom the most among countless families. Viscount Rosewald excused himself, stating he would take his leave. The woman in red asked if he had nothing else to report. Viscount Rosewald feigned ignorance, wondering what she meant. She revealed she had investigated his domain's stagnant tax revenue, which contradicted its population and development. Viscount Rosewald stammered, asking if she didn't believe him. She questioned the reason for not reporting taxes corresponding to the development. The text mentioned Viscount. For generations, they pledged loyalty to the Sky Empire, governing and protecting their domain with the Viscounts. The country's trust would be considerably hurt if a count reported fabrications from even one family. To achieve such ambitions, one only needed to win against the Countess family in a real fight. For such ambitions, they even used their own child. A clinking sound accompanied the child's use. "Victor, you failed. What a disgrace. Involving children in danger is unacceptable, but what are you saying?" Victor insisted he gave no such orders, suggesting his son grew impatient to seize control. The man stammered, "What I mean is, Miss Kanon's aptitude lies in healing magic, not combat, so Victor challenged her to prove he could compensate." The speaker admitted his son was wrong, but argued Kanon was too tender, making Victor suitable to protect their futures. Kanon's mana was of the light element, and she would eventually gain the power to protect herself as a noble. Nobles must fight for their pride and for the people under their dominion, regardless of gender. Her children, Kanon and Lloyd, were more than capable of fulfilling these duties. The recent events made this abundantly clear. The speaker declared the son would be re-educated at a boarding school, and Viscount Rosewald's schemes would be handled by the Imperial Interrogation Office. With the discussion concluded, the speaker informed the Viscount he was free to leave. The silver-haired girl scoffed. The woman in red warned the girl not to get haughty, claiming people like her only had inherited luck. She repeated that people like her only possessed luck inherited from previous generations. With silver hair cascading, the girl questioned the woman's expression, asking what was wrong with her face. Clad in crimson, the woman turned to address the girl. Noticing the girl's shiver, the woman in red offered a remark about it. Vance recoiled, acknowledging the overwhelming difference in strength. He gritted his teeth, realizing the opponent was simply too powerful. A guttural sound escaped Vance as he struggled against the assault. Vance's eyes widened in shock at the sudden, unexpected turn of events. Rapid sounds echoed as the magical attack continued. Accompanying the magical barrage was a sharp, percussive sound. Praising Muria's incredible power in defeating the enemy, a voice exclaimed. Lloyd heard the commotion and turned, asking if the others heard it too. The woman in red spoke, reflecting on her role in protecting Canon and acting as a mother figure. The woman continued, feeling pride in her maternal actions towards Muria. She acknowledged that many disapproved of her bringing Lloyd to this place. The woman in red declared her desire to stay and protect their home. Determined to honor her mother's legacy, she promised to protect Canon until she became an adult, echoing her mother's words. Recognizing her mother's strength, she vowed to do her best to be strong too. With unwavering resolve, she stood ready to defend their home against any threat. The woman in red assured Canon not to worry, stating her mother was strong. Victor smiled, glad Lloyd felt that way about his own mother. Canon giggled softly. Turning to Canon, Victor spoke. With a sheepish grin, Victor apologized to Canon for frightening her. His voice trembling, Victor reached for Canon's hand. Canon reassured Victor, saying it wasn't scary at all because her brother had saved her. Victor told Canon to sit down. The woman in red assured Marietta not to worry and to go, thanking her. She then politely excused herself. Someone suggested they remain friends from that point onward. Another person agreed with that sentiment. A voice proposed bathing together that day, including both a big brother and Canon. A surprised "eh" was heard. Another "eh" followed, accompanied by the sound of splashing water. A third, more emphatic "e" echoed. An elderly man announced a need for donations for the Project 6 Princesses Fall in Love with God Guardian, citing low finances. Someone noted that the silver-haired boy's hair had grown since their last bath, and he agreed to bind it again. The silver-haired boy asked if they could bathe together, then quickly added he'd bath alone later. A voice called out, asking if the silver-haired boy was ready for a step jump W. Someone expressed surprise, saying, Marietta, I'll be surprised if you. Claudina apologized for intruding, stating concern that something had happened. Someone noted Hiyori's aura had completely changed, accompanied by a heartbeat sound effect. Elisiel gently touched Hiyori's face, asking if she had a fever, with a thumping sound. Hiyori insisted she was fine, her face flushed, and agreed to proceed since the air felt warm. Aurelis declared she could not oppose the flow. Gerdo asked Marietta if her brother was present, to which she nervously confirmed he was. Vance splashed and asked if Marietta was behind him, offering to leave if she wasn't comfortable. Marietta asked her mother if she could wash her brother's back later, and her mother agreed, offering to do his hair. The mother agreed, and Claudina stepped forward to help with Vance's hair. Victor asked if there was any problem, his voice tinged with concern. The woman in red declared that there were only problems, her tone escalating. She then stated that Canon's turn was over and thanked Marietta's mother. Victor declared his time had come, turning to Vance and asking where he should begin washing. He playfully asked Vance where he preferred to be washed first. Victor commented on how Canon resembled a little angel, then paused. He suggested starting with Vance's hands, and Vance agreed. Victor chuckled, rubbing Vance's hands, then inquired what Vance was doing. Vance stated that these hands had protected him. The armored knight uttered the word Trump. Victor asked if Vance felt any itchiness, his voice a low rumble. Victor observed Canon's happiness, finding joy in their good relationship and acknowledging Muria's concern. The woman speaking of a maternal role finished her task, thanking the person she attended. She then turned to Canon, expressing delight at bathing with her daughter after so long. Canon reassured her mother that it was fine, thanking her for joining the bath. Canon drowsily settled into the warm water. Her mother gently massaged her shoulders. Canon sighed contentedly, enveloped by the bath's warmth. Her mother then tapped her shoulder. Canon looked up, slightly startled by the touch. Her mother noted that Canon's hair had grown, nearly brushing her eyes. Canon blushed, noticing her hair had indeed fallen onto her shoulder, and promised to cut it later. Her mother remarked on Canon's sudden docility, calling her a good kid today. Canon let out a soft sigh, feeling comfortable and relaxed. Victor sighed, finally able to rest after a difficult ordeal. He then recalled a specific memory. Victor remembered Canon's mana test in the forest, sensing a powerful presence from its depths. He wondered if a magic beast dwelled there. He identified the presence as Bastant, the king of cats and guardian deity of an ancient mountain village. Victor questioned if Bastant was truly lurking in the forest's depths. A knight announced that dinner was ready for Lloyd. Lloyd acknowledged the announcement and prepared to join them. Canon pointed out that her brother had sauce on his face. She offered to wipe it for him, and he gratefully accepted. Marietta lamented losing her position to Canon, but held hope for future chances. Victor commented on the food, noting its improvement over the past millennium. He praised the sour fruit sauce for balancing the delicate white fish, deeming it delicious. Victor noted the food had drastically improved since 1,000 years ago, finding it delicious. "Brother, Victor," Canon called, asking him to turn around. Canon hesitantly offered to eat only half, not wanting to force herself. Victor reassured her, smiling, feeling they were finally getting along well enough to spoil her. Apprehensively, Canon began eating. The food was chewed and munched by Canon. Victor noted that Canon tearfully announced she had eaten it, though he thought she looked pale, but had done her best. Since Victor had eaten half, Canon declared she would take something he disliked, trusting him later. Joyfully and with surprise, Canon exclaimed. Victor decided he would speak with the cook about making the food easier for Canon to eat. The woman in red offered her help, stating she wished to stop disliking things. She then expressed a desire to cook something herself, so she would like it, asking if Canon would cook. A woman spoke of her maternal role, agreeing to participate when she had time, but was asked to finish her work first. Eagerly, Canon agreed to prepare a delicious meal, intending to surprise her brother with a smile. With determination, she committed to crafting a hearty dish, hoping to brighten her brother's day. Planning to delight him, Canon vowed to cook a flavorful feast, aiming to earn his grateful grin. Victor reflected that he couldn't be happier with the current situation. However, he acknowledged this happiness could not last forever. He wondered if Arsmelia had been reborn somewhere in this world. Victor resolved to find out if she was somewhere in this world, even if it was only that knowledge he sought. Gerdo glanced at someone, indicating they were the person he needed help from. The person Gerdo addressed looked surprised. The sharp clang of metal echoed as weapons clashed. Lloyd stood firm, his presence commanding. The word mother hung in the air, heavy with unspoken emotion. A voice asked if there was something to discuss, followed by a soft funch. Someone instructed another to visit the study before bedtime. A plea for donations for the Project 6 Princesses Fall in Love with God Guardian was broadcast, citing financial difficulties. The message repeated the request to come to the study, mentioning Chapter 4, the Wandering Star and the Project 6 Princess fell in love with God Guardian. A polite apology for the intrusion was offered, accompanied by a sound effect d'objet. Victor's mother expressed surprise at his perceptiveness, calling him Lloyd. Gratitude was expressed for protecting Canon, with an explanation that she was busy with Viscount Rosewald, Victor Kuhn's father. A sincere apology was offered. According to Victor, his mother had nothing to apologize for, as protecting Canon was his own desire, not an obligation. With quiet conviction, he reiterated that protecting Canon had always been his own choice, not an obligation. Gratitude marked Victor's tone as he offered his thanks. He explained his mother's apology was unnecessary, as he was willing to stay up late to discuss whatever she wished. Victor assured her he would listen to anything she had to say. Victor revealed he was searching for someone. He emphasized his desperate need to find this person by any means necessary. The woman speaking about a maternal role understood and offered her assistance. She inquired about the name of the person Victor sought. After a pause, Victor finally spoke the name. The name Lloyd escaped Victor's lips, followed by a strained sound. His voice faltered, leaving Victor unable to continue. Vance questioned if the inability to speak a certain name was the price for the ritual of reincarnation. He struggled to speak, mentioning the Sky Empire and his true identity. Vance wondered if a curse or condition prevented him from discussing his past before reincarnation. He attempted to write something down, thinking if he could just manage to write it. Suddenly, Vance cried out, unable to write the letter I, and a drop of blood fell. He questioned why he couldn't write I, insisting a specific name belonged in the history book. Vance clutched his head, feeling an immense pain as if it would break. Victor told Vance it was fine, urging him not to force himself. He reassured Vance that he didn't need to push through the pain. Vance apologized to Victor, calling him mother and saying he didn't have to say it if it hurt. Victor reminded Vance that he had said earlier there was nothing to apologize for, and those words had saved him. Vance felt his heart calming, believing Victor wanted him to continue being his mother. The woman speaking about a maternal role explained she used magic so her child would relax, thanking them for calling her magic amazing. The conversation turned to the word mother. She then asked if magic existed to find someone without knowing their name or being told it. The other person confirmed that such magic did exist. The woman noted that with the clear weather, they could try the magic, but hesitated. She then asked Lloyd to wait a moment. She revealed that a secret magic book was hidden somewhere within the mansion. The armored knight remained silent. That a knight unable to name his beloved lord could not live without worry, he declared. Swallowing hard, he stated that any clue, no matter how small, was important. Upon this magic book, he resolved to place his hopes. Lloyd apologized to his mother for asking a favor late at night, enjoying a night walk with her. The silver-haired boy offered his hand, suggesting they hold hands so no one would fall. Victor examined an ancient book, its pages worn thin with age. He explained it was a gift from his father, vital to the fearless family, despite its unknown author and origin. Victor confirmed the magic inscribed within the book remained potent. His gaze settled on a specific magic circle drawn inside the ancient text. He asked if his mother had drawn it, but she denied it, stating she left the existing drawing untouched. The ritual of asking the sky and finding answers in the stars was an ancient practice of the sky people, which she explained, comparing the stars to a curtain over the world. More than just stars could be seen from above, she added, and the magic circle would allow them to observe it. They would use the magic circle to observe those other things immediately, she declared. Victor stated they would need to select a circle, and that blood would be required, but he hesitated at the thought of hurting a finger. The silver-haired boy volunteered, saying he would do it himself. He reassured Victor that a small scratch would heal quickly. With that, the spell concluded. A kiss had been the catalyst for healing. Victor thanked his mother, acknowledging residual blood despite the healing magic. Castor chose the circle and asked if the target was ready. Invoking the origin of life, the caster sought stellar knowledge and recalled the last touch. Seeking stellar knowledge, the caster recalled a calm voice, a promise, and the last hand touched. When the caster's mana vanished, they questioned divine interference but resolved to find the person. Declaring their intent to find the person, the caster identified as Loud Fearless. Revealed at last, the target's name was Arsmelia. Victor realized their connection to Arsmelia. A light appeared, representing the person Victor was searching for. The light confirmed that Arsmelia was indeed in this world. Victor mused that they had indeed been reborn in the same era. A loud bang echoed. Vance cried out that the light had vanished, but then corrected himself, saying it hadn't. He explained that the light representing the person Vance sought had merely wandered, meaning it had split. The light Vance was searching for had divided into 6 separate individuals. Meanwhile, the scene shifted. A map showed the location of the Holy Empire. Next, the Evil Empire was indicated on the map. Next, the map highlighted the Human Empire. Also, the Omi Empire appeared on the map. Finally, the Beast Empire emerged on the map. At last, the Dragon Empire appeared on the map. Determined to find Arsmelia, the voice swore its relentless pursuit. Urging support, the community received a plea for donations to fund the 6 princesses Fall in Love with God Guardian project. Emerging from the ruins, a shadowy figure vowed to uncover the lost artifact. The Sky Empire calendar marked year 104, with 7 nations locked in ongoing conflict. Vance Shutararu arrived as ordered, initiating Chapter 5, A 1,000-Year Wish, from 6 princess fell in love with God Cinderella. Someone yearned for a world entirely free from conflict. Vance was asked his thoughts on how the world might change if all conflict vanished. Vance humbly admitted he couldn't envision a clear future, but the Majesty remained unconcerned. The Lord declared that if Vance could not envision the future, he himself would portray it. It was Vance's first meeting with the Sky Empress, Armcelia Rune, also known as Maya, and 4 years later, someone questioned if Her Majesty had finally employed the Armistice Barrier. The Armistice Barrier was revealed as the ultimate, final measure. Vance deflected the incoming spell, but the conflict was far from over. A knight urged his horse forward desperately, pleading to reach his queen in time. Vance stood firm, his name echoing through the tense air. A searing heat erupted as Vance countered the magical assault. Silver-haired, the boy asked if the knight was heading to see the queen. With a grim nod, the knight confirmed his destination. Perplexed, the silver-haired boy questioned why the knight hadn't stopped the queen. He also demanded an explanation for the Armistice Barrier they hadn't been told about. The knight explained the barrier was a way to end the fighting, but it would kill their lord. He declared they would never accept such a solution. The knight revealed the queen fell ill after deploying the barrier, sacrificing herself for the future she desired. He stated he would ask one more time. The armored knight challenged Vance, questioning his duty to protect the Empress while vowing to defeat him first. Vance shook his head, his expression grim. To the armored knight, Vance declared his wish to leave the matter of the next ruler to him as the leader of the knights after this. With a heavy sigh, Vance turned his gaze toward the horizon, his resolve firm. Silently, Vance signaled his squire to bring his horse, his mind set on departure. Vance confessed he had wanted to fight him just one more time. The armored knight replied that everyone already respected Vance, even without him needing to do anything further. He then admitted that Vance was far better than he was. A woman's voice called out Vance's name in concern. Vance lamented that even after deploying the Armistice Barrier, he thought he could have remained a shy empress a little longer. His power had brought peace among the emperors, yet he wouldn't survive until the 7-year conference. The silver-haired boy asked if there was truly no other way. Only a few hours remained before his soul would vanish completely. A nervous gulp echoed in the silence. Victor mused that 4 years had passed with impossible speed, or perhaps agonizing slowness. He exclaimed how everything had happened far too quickly. The scarred man warned that the fighting would not cease with this single battle's end. He confessed his deepest regret, that something so deeply ingrained would not disappear with a mere barrier. The woman speaking of maternal roles observed that his voice still sounded so young, and many would weep to see him perish this way. She addressed him directly, pleading, "You." He insisted he would not cry, reminding her that she already knew his reasons. Vance stated he wasn't ordering the other person to go that far. He had vowed 4 years prior to offer his life until the other's own ran out. He declared he had become someone entirely new since that fateful day. Someone called him a fool, the greatest idiot in the Sky Empire, in the whole world. He wished to attempt the ritual of reincarnation alongside the other person. He longed to see the world they envisioned, standing by their side, even 100 or 200 years from now. The other person questioned why he would speak such words. He asked if they wouldn't speak them until the very end, because for him, this was not the end. The word Arsmelia was spoken. Victor declared he had been reincarnated 1,000 years later. He explained he had searched for Arsmela's soul using forbidden magic. A voice explained that the light had fractured into 6 pieces, and her soul had been similarly divided. With unwavering resolve, the silver-haired girl declared she would not give up and would definitely find the person she sought. Though the World Magic School's enrollment examination was approved, it meant searching for multiple individuals. Finding several people lay ahead, a daunting prospect indeed. Donations were requested for the Project 6 Princesses Fall in Love with God Guardian, citing financial hardship. The chapter title heralded the arrival of the King of Cats. With the King of Cats, a new character emerged. Mentioned was the Veuve Flapfirst technique. Likening the action to a bird crossing a stormy sea, they commanded, "Turn lull." Here, the horizon flickered with static, signaling a shift in the storm's pattern. As the sky split into jagged fragments, each glowing faintly, the crew braced. Demanding precise timing, the technique required a heartbeat between chaos and calm. Cornered, Vance spat a desperate curse, his breath ragged with fury. Frantic, he lunged sideways, another oath dissolving into the clamor. Shadows closing fast, his mind clawed for the calm the technique demanded. He barely dodged the incoming spell, recognizing it as a second technique. The magical assault continued, forcing Vance to evade another dangerous technique. The armored knight's shadow stretched, mirroring his imposing, armored form. Suddenly, Vance spotted an escape route directly above him. Lloyd declared his victory, addressing someone named Bastet. A muffled sound of distress came from the scarred man. The scarred man lamented not being able to eat his opponent today, feeling toyed with, and questioned how long the other would remain still, expressing a desire to ride him. He trailed off, his words catching in his throat. A voice noted how much the silver-haired boy had changed since they first met, questioning his persistent visits to the forest's depths. The silver-haired boy recalled telling Vance 8 years ago that he wanted to be friends. Vance responded with a dismissive, questioning hemph. He then asked if Vance usually brought cat powder wine, offering to listen if Vance had something to say. The boy announced he would go to the World Magic College tomorrow for an examination, having already passed the preliminary, and would enroll as Kanon's escort. Vance acknowledged this, stating that the fooling around would stop today, and that he had something he wanted to ask. He explained that since it was the last time, the boy could say anything, admitting he would feel lonely when the boy was gone. The boy added that Vance would forget it all after 3 days anyway. He then invited Vance to come with them to the World Magic College. Vance reacted with disbelief, asking if the boy was saying that after telling him it was fine, since it was the last time, and apologized. Vance mused that if the boy ever revealed his true, strong self, he might follow him. The boy exclaimed great, and thanked Vance, whom he called Bastet, stating they wouldn't confront each other again. He then expressed his dislike for the name Vance used, suggesting Tito as an alternative. Vance arrived just in time for breakfast, a relieved sigh escaping him. A cheerful greeting echoed through the room. A sudden gasp of surprise cut through the morning air. Vance inhaled deeply, recognizing the rich aroma of the soup. Cannon offered the bowl to Victor, her voice gentle. She asked her brother if he would please taste her cooking. Cannon finished her polite words, expressing gratitude for the meal. Victor savored the soup, praising its deep, harmonious flavors. Victor asked if he could help Cannon with anything. Cannon instructed Victor to prepare himself and wait, mentioning Lucre. The silver-haired boy addressed Victor as brother, asking for a prayer. He then requested a prayer for their journey. The fearless family gave thanks for the sky's grace, which provided sustenance for them and the populace. With their thanks offered, they announced their departure. Marietta bid farewell to Lloyd and Cannon, urging caution on their travels. A somber mood settled over the group. Cannon promised that she and Lloyd would return home. The others assured them they would wait there. Cannon smiled, expressing her love for Marietta and everyone present. Suddenly, a voice declared, "I'm not going to." Someone's lips released a sharp gasp. "Straight collar and tie," a voice declared, "marked a gentleman." Her fearless family's honor drove a determined girl to vow her utmost effort. Victor addressed his brother, bringing up something that had been troubling him. Someone wondered about a large cat, enjoying itself but unsure if anything could be found. A character introduced their friend, the king of cats, Bastet, who could transport them to the magic college faster than any carriage, mentioning they had heard about Lloyd's sister. Someone expressed their reliance on their Tito, and then called for Cannon to come closer. A warning was given that running would take longer, while a fall seemed unlikely, a firm grip was advised. The group decided it was time to depart for the Magic College. A plea for donations for the Project 6 Princesses Fall in Love with God Guardian was broadcast, due to severe financial shortages. Someone recognized the location as the World Magic School, referencing Chapter 7, Evil Princess and Holy Princess. A rustling sound accompanied the observation that many people were attempting the same examination. Vance braced himself, hearing them coming from all over, and realizing the danger was imminent. He landed with a thud, the impact echoing in the sudden quiet. Victor called out to Cannon, asking if she could get down, and she confirmed she could, calling him brother. Cannon cried out as she slid down, the movement sudden and uncontrolled. Victor immediately checked on Cannon, asking if she was all right after her descent. The armored knight also approached, his shadow reflecting his imposing armor, and asked if Cannon was all right. Cannon replied that she wasn't all right, her voice trembling, before gasping in surprise at something. Onlookers whispered about a noble from the Sky Empire, calling him a gentleman and speculating if he and the girl were a couple. Cannon, embarrassed by the attention, apologized because everyone was looking at her. The scarred man glanced at the situation, asking Victor if he was fine leaving things as they were. The silver-haired boy commented that things had gotten interesting since their arrival. A voice declared that the other's dragon was too big and demanded they step aside to let the speaker pass with their agile dragon. Aurelis, the evil empire's princess, was identified by the onlookers. Someone lectured that they must yield to those in front, as fighting trivial matters when it's against the goddess's will. Elysiel, the Holy Empire's princess, was also identified by the crowd. The onlookers whispered about the Holy Princess and the Evil Princess meeting. The crowd continued to murmur amongst themselves. They pointed out the Beast Empire's princess among the gathering. The Dragon Princess's powerful mana was noted by the observers. Present was the human princess, though the Oni Empire princess appeared to be missing. At the college, imperial families from every nation had assembled. Nations with a 1,000-year-old special relationship, the Holy Empire and Evil Empire, were poised for conflict. Anticipated to escalate into an international matter was the examination. Someone laughed in response to the unfolding situation. Vance declared his intention to end their conflict with a single decisive blow. His opponent scoffed, calling Vance's attempt to act mature futile and his magic incapable of touching holy power. Vance paused, considering his next move. The opponent questioned if 13 was too young for Vance to be attending college. Mockingly, the opponent suggested that Vance's little holy princess persona seemed youthful. With a smirk, Vance retorted that age was irrelevant to academic prowess. Firmly, he emphasized that maturity, not years, defined readiness for higher education. Aurelis began a chant, invoking the blood of Grandshark and the goddess's will upon sinners. She called for a chain of commandments to be bestowed. Aurelis commanded that those standing before her be turned red. She unleashed her first technique, Silence, which overlapped waves of power. Vance reacted with stunned disbelief to the sudden silencing of the area. Vance exclaimed that the magic hadn't activated, despite his invocation. He then questioned Victor if he had done something. Victor admitted he only wanted to interrupt the princesses, marveling at the distance from which it was done. He explained that by suppressing the revelation of sound, he had nullified their incantation before they finished. The silver-haired boy breathed a sigh of relief, asking if the worst had been avoided. Victor declared he had lost interest. He shyly added that he had one more thing to say. Victor apologized for mentioning their ages, explaining that he'd be too young for college despite being older. He confessed he cherished that pure side of the other person and wished to settle things another day. Victor then added this time. Victor concluded that some unrefined individual seemed to have interfered. Vance worried he'd drawn too much attention and urged Cannon to leave with him. He declared his resolve to become the best one day. The elderly man announced that their project, 6 Princesses Fall in Love with God Guardian, was critically low on funds and requested community support. The deputy director then introduced the next segment, Chapter 8, The Noble from the Magic Empire. He stated the audience was meeting him for the first time. The deputy director identified himself as Militia Lingern, serving in his current role. Militia Lingern informed the attendees that they had all met the minimum requirements for the preliminary examination. He explained that despite some special cases regarding age restrictions, all candidates were held to the same standards. He added that members of each country's imperial family were also expected to meet the bare minimum, with one exception. This exception was due to imperial family members possessing the authority to conceal their true power. Regarding the upcoming test, Militia Lingern mentioned a desperate time when imperial family members could attempt it individually. He announced the first exam, to be held in the Crystal Colosseum, was the Mama Determination exam, where 5 people would touch a magic device to determine their mana. The elderly man offered his best wishes to everyone present. The silver-haired girl declared her determination to pass, seeking clues about Arsmelia among the gathered strong mana users. Cannon excitedly told Victor that it was finally time for their endeavor. The silver-haired boy promised Cannon he would do his best to be in the same class. Victor suggested they go together since they had time before the examination began. A scarred man leered at Cannon, telling her to be careful. Cannon apologized, blushing at the scarred man's attention. A woman named Verona fiercely defended Gerdo, shouting at the scarred man to get away from him, before being struck. The scarred man apologized to Canon, admitting he was captivated and unable to stand still, then asked for her name. Canon introduced herself as Canon Fearless, which the scarred man praised as a wonderful name. The scarred man felt their meeting was fated, describing an intense burning sensation within him. He then requested to demonstrate his power immediately, without waiting for the examination, as a small sound effect played. Gerdo Krauser introduced himself, noting the other's initial nervousness. He identified himself as the third son of an evil empire's Marcus family. Gerdo inquired about the social standing of the Fearless family, assuming they were nobles from the Sky Empire. The other man proudly declared he was from a Count family, Count indeed. Gerdo laughed, acknowledging the man's nervousness stemmed from their noble status, and assuring him they could relax. The man apologized for his attendant's pushiness, his demeanor shifting as he recognized Gerdo's higher standing. Gerdo mentioned Verona and Balgas, explaining their loyalty led to their actions. He confirmed all three intended to gain admission to the academy. Balgas worried his magic wasn't strong enough, but Gerdo reassured him about his mana. Gerdo's gaze suddenly shifted elsewhere. He then complimented Canon Fearless, calling her beautiful. Victor invited Vance to join them for a meal, specifically requesting his company. Canon cried out for her brother, Victor. An attendant approached Gerdo, but stopped when Gerdo noticed them. Gerdo questioned the attendant, asking if their country allowed inferiors to voice opinions to superiors. The attendant stammered, but Gerdo dismissed their concern as typical meddling. Gerdo insisted their time together was precious and urged the other person to grab them and go. A man announced himself as Canon's brother, noting they were loud and fearless. He began to explain his stance, acknowledging respect for his own country's Marquis. He continued, stating that unconditionally obeying another country's Marquis was inherently difficult. Someone challenged this, asking if he implied a Marquis from the evil empire was inferior to a count from the Sky Empire. The response pointed out the Sky Empire, though once leading the alliance, no longer had an emperor. Their argument centered on the lack of an emperor in the Sky Empire, claiming this made it inferior to the evil empire and elevated the evil emperor's status. Such a void in leadership, they insisted, stripped the Sky Empire of its former authority and legitimacy within the alliance. Consequently, the evil emperor's position as the dominant force gained renewed justification through this perceived imbalance. The silver-haired boy declared they would discover who was better in the exam, calling out Verona and Balgas. He then said he would see Canon later, expressing his wish for her to pass. Canon offered her thanks. The boy replied it was not really anything special. Canon questioned his behavior, finding it strange he was sweet to her while insulting her brother and wanted him to know his place. She then proclaimed her brother was the best in the Sky Empire, no, in the world. Canon continued to insist her brother was the best in the world. The boy agreed and urged them to leave quickly, revealing he was actually there to protect Canon. He vowed to protect Canon, no matter what kind of person appeared at the school, acting as her brother and escort. The elderly man announced their project, 6 Princesses Fall in Love with God Guardian, was running low on finances and pleaded for donations. A title card announced Chapter 10, Flames of Darkness. 6 princesses fall in love with God Guardians, asking if they were the last 2 participants. The examination was revealed to be an illusion battle, where participants sent a projection of themselves into an illusory group. They were instructed to use a magic circle to send their illusion to the examination grounds, with a chance of later teleportation into the school. Participants were told to prepare according to their examen numbers, and the first examinee was called forward. Victor called out to his brother Vance, urging him forward. Someone expressed anticipation for meeting them after passing the examination, followed by a surprised exclamation. A soft laugh was heard, then the word set. A voice acknowledged having a sister too, and prayed they wouldn't have to fight, as siblings getting along was fantastic. Gratitude was expressed, followed by a request to end things there and enter the teleportation circle. It was stated that even as an illusion, the fight would be no different from a real one. A call was made to concentrate on the task at hand. Commanders issued the order for open wind. Stretching endlessly, the wasteland became their battleground for final confrontations. Advancing with deliberate steps, the armored knight's shadow mirrored his polished steel as he identified his foe. A desolate expanse, the wasteland stood as an open dueling ground where fates would be decided. Gerdo apologized for the wait as the knight declared Vance would be his stepping stone. The knight proclaimed his fate with Kanan was sealed, and now he had the chance to defeat Vance. He warned Lloyd that this was the place where he would be eliminated. The knight declared that for Kanan to be with him freely, Vance must not interfere, addressing Gerdo. The knight asserted his belief in victory, stating he could not afford to lose. With a derisive snort, Vance dismissed the knight's declaration. Challenging the knight's logic, Vance highlighted how mana affinity determined illusion battle outcomes. Noting the knight's mana deficiency, Vance emphasized its critical role in combat. Drawing a final verdict, Vance declared the knight's victory impossible. The attacker declared they would strike 3 times. He muttered that ending it in one blow would be annoying, intending to burn the illusion 3 times. The demon god of flames unleashed a breath of flame from his finger, a firefinger bullet. The attacker laughed, exclaiming that Vance was ultimately. He repeated that Vance was ultimately. Vance countered with the first Guardian-style ring of protection. Someone commented that everything flows and circulates, asking if this was a wait-and-see approach, noting the flashy flame. The attacker exclaimed in disbelief that it was impossible, as they used the power borrowed from the demon god of flames for a middle-class magic spell. Vance explained that even borrowing power from the demon god of flames, the one firing it was still an illusion, and the mana quantity depended on Gerdo's real body. Gerdo declared he didn't care how Vance did it and would blow him away, leaving nothing behind. He chanted for a fire spirit sleeping in purgatory to chase his enemy and scorch their silhouette into the earth. The attack was named a Fire Spirit Summit. Vance braced himself as the fire spirit unleashed its divide attack. The spirit declared its attack would relentlessly pursue Vance until his flesh burned, with no escape. Vance activated a substitution technique, leaving only his will to fight behind. He planned to lure the attackers into striking each other. Vance cried out in pain as his strategy seemed to backfire. The fire spirit exploded, catching Vance by surprise. A voice questioned if Vance should really be focusing on what was right in front of him. A swift dash followed. Vance cried out, demanding to know what had been done to him. A voice suggested ending the conflict, then invoked wind. The question was posed if Vance wished to continue the fight. A command to step down was issued. The chapter marker indicated the third part of the story. A character confirmed the statement, saying, "That's right." Vance declared there was no turning back for him. He then lamented to an older brother that he couldn't understand the pain of being the third son. Someone observed that the flame's color was black. They identified the power as darkness mana. A voice commanded the demon god of flames to cauterize everything with the flames of judgment. The attack was named Sinful Fireball. The speaker stated this was the third strike and declared their intention to end it. A plea for donations for the Project 6 Princesses Fail in Love with God Guardian was displayed, citing financial difficulties. The chapter title was revealed as Sinful Fireball, Chapter 11, guidance of the destiny. The scarred man declared he would not back down from the fight. He vowed to finish his opponent this time, calling out to his lord. With silver hair, the girl insisted her opponent could not afford to lose. He countered, asserting he was in the same dire situation. Now, the masked guard announced he was using the third guardian style. With a deep breath, the demon god of flames, lunar reflection, was invoked. Calling out, the power was asked to answer his voice once more, as the moon's reflection dances on water. The masked guardian's voice boomed as the power was commanded to show itself. The scarred man expressed disbelief that someone without a contract could use such power. He questioned how someone who hadn't made a contract could wield the power of the demon god. The masked guard explained that the first guardian style created a shield for oneself, the second granted a shield to a target, and the third guardian style created a sword from the enemy's magic, unleashing a sinful fireball. Vance cried out as the spell struck him. Victor's eyes widened in alarm as Vance faltered. Victor realized Vance was being pushed back, lamenting his missed mother. The spell's power began to fade. Recognizing the spell's anomaly, Victor adjusted his strategy. A critical flaw in the magic's structure became evident to Victor. With urgency mounting, Victor enacted the emergency countermeasure. His focus unwavering, Victor stabilized the faltering ritual. Vance noted his mana consumption was minimal due to his defensive experience, while Gerdo unleashed a barrage of powerful magic attacks. Victor explained that in this illusion battle, consuming more mana made maintaining the illusion harder. Vance declared his defense was complete. The teleportation began, and Vance questioned if the examination was finished. Disoriented, he asked where he was, realizing he hadn't returned to his body. The imperial princesses of the Six left him pondering the meaning behind the strange scene. Shadows flickered unnaturally, tugging at his senses as if urging him to flee. A distant hum resonated through the air, vibrating in his bones like a warning unspoken. A familiar sensation washed over him, making him question its origin. He realized this feeling was identical to a past experience. In confusion, he called out for his brother Victor. Victor responded with relief, recognizing Canon and confirming she was all right. Canon recalled feeling this sensation just before arriving, realizing its significance now. The spell Ars Melazi struck Vance directly. Vance declared it was no mistake to come to this school. He gritted his teeth, suppressing a cry of pain. Victor called out again, recognizing his sister Canon. Canon stammered, unsure how to explain the situation. She apologized for worrying him, admitting she feared for his safety during the combat trial. Canon expressed her regret for being a constant source of worry. Victor reminded Canon that he wasn't fighting solely for himself. He fought for her, the one who believed in him, so she wouldn't have to cry anymore. Victor vowed to stand by Canon and protect her until the very end. A plea for donations for the Project 6 Princesses Fall in Love with God Guardian was displayed. Someone wondered about the building, identifying it as a special department for hand-picked new students. The silver-haired boy told Vance he had been waiting, certain he would arrive. Vance thanked Canon, relieved to find himself beside her. Canon chirped happily, glad she could stay with Vance. Blushing furiously, the woman in red stammered an embarrassed greeting. Observing their obvious closeness, the armored knight wondered how long their interaction would last. Thus, the Beast Princess Yuzurina Tilla was named. Kuzunoha Tilla was named. The scarred man questioned the presence of the Beast Princesses. Someone wondered aloud if the Beast Princesses were lovers. Canon, fearless of the Sky Empire's Count family, introduced herself and her brother, Lloyd, to the group. An elderly man's observation that Canon and Lloyd didn't look very alike earned a sharp internal rebuke. With a curt nod, the masked guard acknowledged the introduction. "I am your sibling too," the silver-haired boy declared to his companion. He introduced himself as Kuzunoha. He then introduced Yuzuriha as well. Kuzunoha explained that although she was born first, they considered themselves equals. The woman in red remarked how wonderful it was to have a sister who was also a friend. Yuzuriha then stated that Kanon was her most precious friend. Kuzunoha asked Kanon if she agreed that they were happy to have her as a classmate. Kanon responded with a hesitancy. Kuzunoha explained they were in the special department and came to see their classmates, mentioning the imperial princess. She added that an imperial princess would surely not be alone. Kuzunoha then let out a soft ha. She confirmed that the guard was indeed watching from a distance. Vance sensed no ill will from the princesses, only a potent pressure emanating from the beastmen. He decided to block the magic preemptively, calling out, "Second Guardian style." Vance activated the antique curtain technique, creating a barrier to isolate them and lower the veils. He then added, "Moreover," Vance noted the strong beastly scent clinging to the other person. He explained that this scent was unique and related to Bastet, something only their sense of smell could detect. Vance recalled that Bastet lived near the Fearless household and had agreed to transport them to the magic school. The armored knight exclaimed in disbelief, questioning if Bastet had lived in the Sky Empire. The armored knight mused that while not impossible, the King of Cats wouldn't carelessly allow someone to mount him, especially if contracted with someone from the Sky Empire. He then added, "But..." The armored knight wondered if there was a trick to earning a cat's affection, as the scent didn't suggest a lie. He concluded, however, and then, with a squeeze, noted the pleasant scent. The silver-haired boy strained, calling out a desperate plea. Was that catnip powder he was smelling? Unable to halt Kuzunoha-sama and Yuzurika-sama's actions, he apologized. With silver vine alcohol given to Bastet at lunch, he urged them to stop. The woman in red reassured him, stating they wouldn't get drunk from just the smell. She added that silver vine alcohol didn't affect them much, then apologized. The silver-haired girl mused that silver vine alcohol seemed delicious, though she couldn't drink it yet. The woman in red told her not to be so uptight, addressing Lloyd. Lloyd exclaimed in surprise as the silver-haired girl giggled. With a heavy sigh, the armored knight apologized for his earlier actions, calling Lloyd a peculiar warrior and expressing a desire to meet as fellow bodyguards. After confirming their purpose, the silver-haired boy stated they should leave since they had asked about Bastet. As they parted ways, the group bid farewell, agreeing to see each other tomorrow. Smiling warmly, the woman in red commented that they were easy to get along with. Glancing toward the exit, the armored knight asked if they should go too. Suddenly casually bringing up their mentors, the silver-haired boy mentioned Letitia-sensei and Saiba-sensei. They stated they had been waiting and congratulated Kanon on passing. Kanon received praise for her fearless mana affinity, achieving 9th place with a score of 125 points, and was told she would reach the top. She humbly replied that she was undeserving of such praise, even compared to the royal hairs. The speaker then noted Kanon's fearless mana affinity of A+, mentioning that Amanagi-sensei, the Research Institute lead, requested a remeasurement. They added that going for the remeasurement was optional, but advised caution if she decided to attend, hinting at a teacher's peculiar nature. Sebula-sensei interrupted herself, admitting she was off topic, and apologized before continuing. She then refocused, stating it was about Kanon's illusion battle score. The deputy director, who was in charge of student examinations this year, was mentioned. The silver-haired boy stated that someone was personally calling for Vance. He described Vance's dragon eyes as a title that alone conveyed immense strength. the boy informed Lloyd Fearless that his examination results, based on mana and illusion fights, already made him the top scorer. He emphasized that Lloyd's rare colorless mana made him exceptionally valuable research material. The boy thanked Lloyd on behalf of the director for choosing to attend their school. Lloyd then asked if they could move on to the main topic, to which the boy agreed. The boy addressed Lloyd Fearless respectfully, using the honorific Dono. He declared that he had something he wanted to ask Lloyd. A man announced a plea for donations, explaining that their project, 6 Princesses Fall in Love with God Guardian, was facing severe financial difficulties. Lloyd inquired if the request was related to his results. Lloyd asked if his results could be excluded from the general ranking, as long as it didn't impact his enrollment. An objection was raised against ranking the 6 imperial princesses, preventing Lloyd from being placed higher than 7th. The elderly man announced that all imperial princesses would study in the special department, placing them in the same class. He added that the beast princesses had said the same, leading to his second request. His request was for assistance in creating a safe learning environment for the imperial princesses. He explained that while the 7 empires formed an alliance for peace, it was merely a pledge between countries. He cautioned that the school could not interfere with personal problems between individuals. The recipient agreed to ensure a respectable class, though they expressed reservations. The silver-haired boy watched, seemingly questioning the proceedings. Victor looked at the woman in red and softly asked if she was his mother. The woman gasped in shock, her eyes wide. Teacher Miu claimed she was merely a temporary instructor and asked what Victor was talking about. Victor insisted it was their mother and that she would surely recognize them. Teacher Miu asked why they were there, apologizing for her silence, but confirming she was a temporary instructor. The silver-haired boy explained he had attended this school and arranged to return as a temporary instructor. He announced he had been assigned as an assistant professor in the special department with Vance and Lloyd. He assured them that behind-the-scenes negotiations in the capital meant there was no need to worry about home. Lloyd questioned if this explained their mother's recent secretive behavior. Kenan acknowledged their mother was indeed extreme, but expressed her love for that side of her. She then turned to Lloyd, asking if he agreed their mother was truly something else. Lloyd confirmed that was indeed their mother. Kenan called out to Lloyd, her voice tinged with emotion. Their mother declared that as long as she remained at the school, she had to be an impartial instructor, above being their mother. She mused that calling them Kenan Dono and Lloyd Dono sounded strange, admitting it felt odd. She instructed them to listen well, stating they were now students of the magic school, and told them to fix their ties. The silver-haired boy suggested they head to the dorms while catching up. He then offered his chest for anyone tired of walking to jump into. He promised to do his best to support them. A girl responded, calling him Miuria Sense. They arrived at the Magic School Island's west side, in the nobles' housing district. The silver-haired boy marveled that they could access lodgings for each country from the garden, noting the Sky Empire's lodging was this way. He pointed, announcing here. 2 maids greeted them, saying, "Welcome back." They introduced themselves as Sour and Cosette, stating they would serve the Fearless family from that day forward. Maids appeared, prompting a question about whether they were students from the magic school. Sour and Cosette confirmed they were scholarship students, working to pay their tuition after training over spring break. The elderly man paused his announcement about donations. The girl declared her love for cooking and asked to work with someone. A character urgently called out, "Senpai." Sengai was told not to interfere, as another had already won over the seniors with their desire to cook for their brother. Someone asked if it was all right to look around with Tito, receiving a caution to be careful. The speaker assured Taito-chan there was plenty of space to play. They would borrow their son from his mother, a character announced. Observing the impressive place, someone remarked there was space for the listener too. Interrupting, a character clarified the mother's reluctant approval. Beginning hesitantly, a character said, "She is." Someone recognized the person as an escort from the Holy Empire. Claudina introduced herself as the attendant to the Holy Imperial Princess, Elysiel. The scarred man introduced himself as Lloyd, escort to Lady Canon Fearless of the Sky Empire Count. He asked Lloyd why he had come so late, and Lloyd replied he wished to speak with him. Lloyd reminded him that his sister and he had been assigned to the special department. He explained this department consisted of the Imperial Princesses and their escorts, forming a single class. The other students in this class were the Academy's top-ranking students. Lloyd mentioned that Elysiel, the Imperial Princess, had aimed for the top score on her examination, but didn't achieve it. Even Ryunella, the Dragon Princess and likely first-place candidate, refused the freshman representative role, deeming someone else more suitable. Lloyd noted that rankings above 7th place were not public, implying a top student wasn't among the 6 princesses. He stated he knew nothing further about the rankings. Lloyd thanked him for his answer and apologized for his potentially rude question. He then began to speak about the examination. The demon princess Aurelis also aimed for first place. After the examination, she spoke with the other princesses. Aurelis declared she wanted to fight the suitable person Ryunea had mentioned. Elysiel did not despise Aurelis. Their philosophies simply clashed. Claudina explained she had received instructions to relay this information to Elysiel. The enrollment ceremony was in 3 days, with special department lessons beginning tomorrow. At that moment, the Demon Empire Princess would... Someone urgently warned the Demon Princess to be careful. A plea for donations appeared, seeking support for the Project 6 Princesses Fall in Love with God Guardian. Victor recalled his sister Kanon's deep attachment to their mother. Chapter 14 opened with the assembled princesses offering a collective good morning. The silver-haired boy questioned Kanon's presence there. He realized Kanon must have slipped out while he was napping, perhaps taking advantage of his brief slumber. Victor greeted Kanon, mentioning he was stepping out for some fresh air. She replied to Victor, then gasped in realization, noticing she had fallen asleep right there. Concern laced her voice as Kanon asked if Victor was going alone. Offering to join him, Kanon suggested they could use the time to talk. The weather had turned colder, Kanon mentioned, her breath visible in the night air. Before following Victor outside, Kanon hesitated, glancing back at the door. 2 figures stammered apologies to Lloyd, denying they had been peeking. One addressed Lloyd as senpai, apologizing for a disgraceful display, but Lloyd reassured them it was nothing. Clad in red, the woman made a soft sound. Addressing her older brother, the woman speaking about a maternal role warned him against catching a cold due to his actions. Turning to the boy with silver hair slightly grown, the woman speaking about a maternal role chided him, urging him to bathe in hot water rather than cold. The boy was warned by her that approaching too closely would leave him soaked as well, mother. Hesitating with a sigh, she trailed off. The towel she extended to him bore evidence of prior use, though she claimed to be fully dry. He thanked her, calling her loud. Someone commented that they looked like lovers, a forbidden relationship. Someone else muttered that living in the lodgings would be tiresome. A different voice suggested that the journey would be perilous. A bystander warned that the path would lead to ruin. The scarred man observed that the security here was quite strict. Then he added, with a thoughtful hum, that it was because the princesses from 6 countries were gathering here. With narrowed eyes, he noted the guards stationed at every entrance, their hands resting on holstered weapons. It seemed clear to him, he murmured, that even a whisper of danger would trigger a swift response. They had, after all, faced threats before, he warned, recalling the sabotage attempt 2 years prior. The scarred man paused, then gestured subtly toward the encrypted documents on the table. After a beat of silence, he leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial murmur. As if on cue, his companion stiffened, catching the faint click of a hidden microphone activating. The princess from the Onai Empire had yet to arrive, someone noted. A man formally greeted the imperial princesses, asking to introduce himself again. Seiba Mitsurugi, the teacher of magic fighting arts, introduced himself. Another instructor, Letitia Primrose, stated her role was magic theory. Aurelis was instructed to show respect to her teachers, even as royalty. Insisting the event was reserved for national representatives, the demon princess demanded they observe proper decorum. Acknowledging the Pope's decree on mutual respect, the masked guard conceded exceptions might exist. Honor, the scarred man asserted, was non-negotiable in his homeland, refusing to accept teachings without explanation. He then asked Raimais Midgard, the imperial dragon princess, if she agreed. Startled awake, Ryumeis Midgard asked if he had spoken, claiming she was sleeping and annoyed by the discussion. She exclaimed that she had only been sleeping because he was discussing irritating subjects. The scarred man reiterated his demand from yesterday, make the mana measurement results public, including the ranking of a student whose mana he felt only faintly. He was interrupted by a protest against referring to someone in their class so dismissively. Susini Hoshizuki, the human imperial princess, asserted she could not accept this, stating even an imperial princess was not pardoned for treating someone like an object. Someone commented that Susini was already acting like the chairman, musing about the selection of one girl and one boy and Susini's potential role. Susini Hoshizuki responded that she had already stated yesterday she would not be provoked by such cheap tactics. She declared their games were over, and she had only one question for the two instructors. Susini Hoshizuki pleaded with them to reveal the reason for withholding the mana measurement results. The silver-haired boy questioned if Vance disagreed with everyone's rank being equal. He repeated that Vance seemed unable to accept that everyone's rank was equal. The armored knight wondered if Lloyd, from the Sky Empire's Count family, was truly fearless. Aurelis realized the person before her was the top-ranked fighter. The scarred man mentioned he heard Lloyd had defeated Gerdo. He commented that Lloyd seemed accepted into the normal department, but he didn't care. Aurelis declared that as the imperial demon princess, she had responsibilities when a noble from her country was torn apart. Aurelis called out to Elysiel, reminding her of her duties. Instead, Elysiel pointed out that Aurelis's country and her own had a different sky pact. With a furrowed brow, Elysiel looked at the pact, seemingly contemplating its significance. Historically, Elysiel explained, the emperors established the Sky Pact 1,000 years ago for peace, allowing each country to uphold one national principle. The evil empire's principle permitted fighting if it was based on honor. The dragon people could discern strength through observation, unlike the evil empire, which only understood it through combat. This meant that in this place, he was the only one. Who could initiate a contest with Vance? The armored knight proclaimed himself Lloyd Fearless. An announcement called for donations to fund the Project 6 princesses fall in love with God Guardian. The scarred man challenged Lloyd to a duel. He questioned Lloyd's claim to the Fearless family name, pointing out he was not a blood relative. The scarred man accused Lloyd of being an escort and demanded he remove the princesses. The silver-haired boy presented the master and servant ring, a treasured artifact of their imperial family. He declared that after the Sky Pact, he would claim Lloyd Fearless as his minion should he be defeated. He was questioned, as the Sky Pact's conditions would bind him equally. Then, the masked guard suggested they move to the arena. The second illusion arena was readied, and a question arose about using only a sword. Yes, however, the scarred man addressed Lloyd, remarking that standing with a weapon before an imperial princess was... He warned Lloyd not to hold back against the imperial demon princes, as defeat would drastically alter his life. Lloyd thanked him for the counsel. He vowed to give his all, determined to avoid any future regrets. Kanan prayed for her brother's victory, assuring him she was watching, and he thanked them both. The transfer was then requested to commence. A surprised exclamation escaped the silver-haired boy. The silver-haired boy noted the location differed greatly from the examination site, resembling a place in his own country. He explained they remained unseen by outsiders until the fighting began. The scarred man addressed Aurelis, offering to clarify any suspicions she held regarding the examination results. He reiterated his plea for time to provide an explanation. He conceded that he had acted prematurely. Aurelis responded with a questioning sound. She wondered if the scarred man's confident demeanor was merely an act. Aurelis stated she expected Ryunea to have the highest rank, as should be the case for any princess, yet Ryunea herself questioned the outcome. The silver-haired girl declared she refused to lose to Elysiel or any other princess, wanting Ryunea to acknowledge her strength despite being the youngest. The scarred man noted that a stronger opponent might emerge from a count's escort rather than the imperial families. He confessed that since leaving the Demon Empire, he hadn't grasped the world's vastness until Vance showed him. He then asked Vance to show him a new world. Now the scene shifted to the third illusion arena. Urgently, the armored knight urged Lloyd to run. Acknowledging the immeasurable abilities, the instructor regretted not stopping the conflict between his students. Though the outcome seemed inevitable, tension gripped the arena. Wisely, the elderly man advised watching closely, for there was nothing else they could do. A figure addressed the Holy Princess. Another approached the Holy Princess, their voice trembling with urgency. One spoke to the Holy Princess, their words laced with desperation. The duel was finally beginning. Vance gasped, recognizing the attack aimed at him. He cried out a warning, urging the attacker to stop. A crimson mist swirled, shredding the prison of time with a glaring red light. The attacker unleashed her evil eye, capable of seizing the mind, intending to make Lloyd her minion. Vance called out Aurelis's name, his voice strained. She was attempting to end the fight with a single, decisive strike. A voice acknowledged Lloyd Fearless, commending him for not fleeing the duel. The speaker expressed regret that the duel would have to end so soon. Lloyd reacted with surprise to a sudden shift. He had dodged the evil eye and seized a superior position. Though Lloyd hadn't drawn his sword, he had gained a significant advantage. Vance wondered how he remained unharmed after being hit by the evil eye. Lloyd Fearless, it seemed, could even withstand an attack from the evil eye. Aurelis proved far stronger than anticipated, but Lloyd was even more incomprehensible. Lloyd's strength was truly unfathomable. Vance questioned how Lloyd managed to resist the evil eye's effects. He explained that even without direct eye contact, the evil eye's influence should have taken hold. The evil eye strips away free will, but if one's body moves on its own during that time. He called it the first guardian style. Even with the mind blank, the heart still guided his actions through mindless repetition. He had pre-programmed himself with magic to move even without conscious free will. Rather than resisting the evil eye's effect, he could completely bypass it. Vance realized his opponent had seen through his entire plan. He watched, stunned, as Vance deflected his evil eye and rushing attack with effortless grace, like a branch bending but not breaking in the wind. The attack had been nullified without Vance even needing to touch him. Respect was shown by Vance with a simple, deliberate nod. Effortless grace marked Vance's movements as he countered the assault. Even as they battled, Vance showed respect to his opponent. The man conceded defeat, his evil eye countered, but vowed to fight until Vance was on his knees. He argued that the outcome would remain unchanged as long as he was the last one standing. It truly wouldn't matter. Vance acknowledged the man had opened the gate, allowing him entry or the chance to reach his castle. Vance declared he would proceed, even if it meant calamity for the man. The masked guard urged someone to make their request. A plea for donations appeared, seeking funds for the 6 princesses fall in love with God Guardian project. A chapter title flashed, Twin Blades, that give off crimson blossoms. Chapter 16, Flower Crystal Blood Dust. Someone challenged another to draw their sword. Vance activated his first Guardian style, his eyes tracking the magic's flow to analyze the incoming attack. He then employed another first Guardian style technique, wings that disappear into the clear blue sky. Vance mused that if the vampire's magic drain absorbed mana, he would simply create a larger target, as an attack came from his left. A defensive ability called Ring of Protection was mentioned. A sharp sound effect indicated a sudden impact. Surprise registered on someone's face as they asked, "Why, this is?" Vance exclaimed that his Fangus ability was impenetrable, blocking the attack. Aurelis unleashed her magic drain, siphoning her opponent's mana as crystal flowers bloomed. Several of these crystal flowers now floated in the air. The silver-haired boy noted Vance hadn't deployed a mana barrier, but sensed something else was present. From the spot where crystal flowers had bloomed, Vance's mana reached the silver-haired boy's senses. A subtle pulse of energy thrummed beneath the surface, familiar to the silver-haired boy as Vance's signature. Though no barrier shimmered into existence, the silver-haired boy steeled for an unseen threat. Crying out, Vance admitted he had let his guard down. Trembling, Vance's voice cracked as he confessed his mistake. Turning sharply, Vance confronted the shadowed figure behind him. Flying to his sword hilt, Vance's hand gripped it instinctively. Staggering backward, Vance's composure splintered. Darting toward the flickering torchlight, Vance's eyes widened. Swallowing hard, Vance battled his parched throat. Gasping shallowly, Vance's panic surged. Collapsing to his knees, Vance drowned in defeat. The masked man let out a soft sigh. Claudina politely addressed Elisiel, the holy imperial princess. The scarred man questioned why Vance had not yet drawn his sword. Vance hesitated for a moment. He explained he had worn such a hopeless expression. Vance looked up, his gaze sharp. He asked if the scarred man truly thought him that weak. The silver-haired boy questioned if his opponent truly believed he would cry from fear if the threat came any closer. He declared he would have to correct that perception, asking why. The silver-haired boy mused if he remembered a time when confronting his knight would be necessary, even if it meant drawing his sword. He wondered if his opponent thought he would be scared if his sword was drawn. Victor found himself unable to look away from the woman before him, though her appearance and voice did not match his memories of his mother. He resolved that he had to face the girl standing in front of him now. Aurelis acknowledged that Vance was stronger than she had anticipated. She continued, thinking of the person who encouraged her not to give up, but then stopped herself. Aurelis realized that Vance was the one who had given her this opportunity. The armored knight exclaimed that the mist was incredibly thick. Aurelis declared that she, the first princess of the Grand Shark dynasty, stood there risking her own life. The knight marveled that the imperial princess was so serious towards him, a mere knight. the scarred man declared he would answer her with his full power, for his pride as a knight. He introduced himself as Lord Fearless, from the Sky Empire's fearless Count family. He swore on his sword to confront her with all his might. A man announced a dire need for donations to their project. 6 princesses fall in love with God Guardian. Aurelis was told she was the hope for the Grandshark family's future. She acknowledged this, calling the speaker mother. Elysiel, the holy imperial princess, was presented by Claudina, who urged her to greet them. Urging Elysiel to greet the assembly, Claudina gestured toward the crowd. Before them stood Claudina, introducing Elysiel with a solemn bow. A voice recalled meeting a girl around their age and expressed a desire to meet her again. Aurelis was addressed by name. The Demon Empire's princess was instructed that she must never lose to the holy princess, Elysiel. The silver-haired girl affirmed that this was the meaning of her life, to become stronger than anyone. She declared she had to excel at everything and could not afford to lose, embracing her role as the demon princess. Her destiny, she stated, was to rule over everything. She insisted she was no longer a child, and there was no reason for anyone to go easy on her. She explained that she had given her all without a break until she arrived at this school. Finally, she exclaimed. She proclaimed that she could finally be their equal. She mentioned that even though Elysiel and Rayuneia were present, they had refused to see her as a rival. Their only common ground was their status as princesses of their respective nations. She added that the one ranked above all of them hailed from the Sky Empire. The silver-haired boy questioned if this was merely a simple escort from a Count family. He then spoke of the Sky Empire, the nation that had ended every war. He mentioned the Emperor, who created the Armistice Barrier, a mysterious figure who died and faded from memory. The boy admitted he was always curious about that Emperor from 100 years ago, though he didn't know why. With a clenched fist, the boy from the evil empire declared his stance. Whether strength could only be measured through combat was his lingering question. Could he defeat his opponent? That question haunted him constantly. Would earning acknowledgement require more than victory? He needed answers. Determination burned in his voice as he vowed, "I will." Only by proving himself could he answer the doubts that lingered. A profound crimson mist enveloped the world, which would finally fall dead. By touching the mist, the blood and mana within the illusion would flow into the speaker. Vance blocked the incoming spell, realizing its unique nature. He recognized the ability from a past encounter. His attacker, the silver-haired boy, taunted Vance, declaring him trapped within his castle. The silver-haired boy commanded his magic to dance until a phantom moon appeared, using the crimson mist to project his image. He revealed this was not a controlling magic eye, but something else entirely. Vance realized he was caught in a disorienting magic eye of illusions. The silver-haired boy declared Vance could no longer see anything and boasted his sword would never reach him in this state. The silver-haired boy expressed gratitude, stating Vance's presence allowed him to grow stronger. Vance felt he saw his target everywhere, but only struck illusions within the vampire's castle. He questioned where his target's true body was, finding the situation absurd. Vance grimaced, realizing the danger of the spell at such close range. He declared his sword bare, ready to cleave through the void with World Breaker. With a mocking laugh echoing, Vance questioned whether his opponent had truly laughed. Shadows flickered wildly, blurring the line between illusion and truth. Still, the clash of steel and void loomed inevitable, a reckoning forged in tension. He questioned if she had activated her second magic eye ahead of time. The ability to simultaneously use a magic eye with both eyes was astounding. He realized time was confined within the crimson mist, preventing his mindless repetition if he looked. The attack was unleashed. Crimson Galera. An elderly man pleaded for donations, stating finances were critically low for the project's 6 princesses fall in love with God Guardian. Revealed was the chapter title as the commission round dance. Growing increasingly dire were the project's finances, with the elderly man's plea underscoring the desperation. Shifting the scene, a character remarked on the unfamiliar setting. Challenging Vance directly, the scarred man questioned whether he would falter here. Vance declared his need to become stronger than any mage from the 7 expires. He was told that as the Sky Emperor's shield, he should be the strongest knight. A voice encouraged him, saying, "Arsmelia, you can always fly high." Someone admired Hiyori's beautiful, transparent mana and proposed changing the world together. Vance reaffirmed his promise to become stronger than anyone else. The silver-haired girl stated she wouldn't let anyone obstruct her lord's dream, then gasped in surprise. She recognized the technique as a mirror, the third guardian style, lunar reflection. She realized her spell had been copied while fighting Vance. With silver hair flowing, the girl questioned Vance's true physical location, suspecting he was elsewhere. Identified through his armor, the knight was revealed as a practitioner of the second guardian style, shadow armor. Defiantly, the girl cried out that it wasn't over yet. Vance grunted as a spell struck him, but he managed to defend against it. Within the crimson mist, shadows danced endlessly, signifying the ongoing battle. The battle raged on, a million lives hanging in the balance. Victor gasped, a painful memory surfacing in his mind. He questioned how Kanon had lived through such hardship. Victor wondered how she had become the person she was now. He recalled Kanon's first technique, comparing it to a leaf floating on a torrent. Victor resolved to show her that he could reach his goals. Aurelis declared her identity with fierce pride. She proclaimed, I am, because I am the demon princess." Someone confirmed that she was indeed the demon princess. They marveled at how strong Aurelis had become. They noted Aurelis' mana would soon deplete, but cautioned that the fight wasn't over. The speaker insisted the battle continued as long as Aurelis still had her fangs, urging them to watch until the end. Surprise rippled through the onlookers at Lloyd's actions. A voice proudly declared, "That's my brother." Someone commented on the beauty of the scene, likening it to a delicate dance. The two figures appeared to be gracefully moving together, as if in a waltz. A desperate cry of "No, not yet," echoed through the arena. Surprise was voiced that Aurelis continued fighting despite expending so much mana. It was noted that her strength seemed to grow even as the battle raged. Aurelis was challenged, accused of dodging attacks and hoping the opponent's mana would simply run out. The opponent countered that Aurelis' desperate plan would not succeed. Vance declared he could still dance a bit longer. He described his situation as being trapped inside a Crimson Blood's cage, where a bird loses its wings. The attack continued, ensnaring him within a suffocating blood prison. His opponent stated that since this was Vance's castle, there was nowhere left to run. They explained their relentless assault, unhindered by their own limits, was meant to seal Vance's movement. The opponent insisted there was no such thing as a limit. They added that if they could continue to steal Vance's mana, they wouldn't have to feel any shame. A command rang out, "Bind Vance." The bounds of the spell began to contract, tightening around Vance. Vance revealed his fang, addressing Lloyd and declaring himself utterly fearless. The elderly man pleaded with the community for financial support for the project. 6 princesses fall in love with God Guardian. The chapter title was revealed as Settlement, and Lloyd declared himself fearless. With a sharp intake of breath, a gasp of surprised realization escaped Vance. Only now did he grasp that his opponent had been crafting a magic circle while deftly evading his strikes. The intricate patterns revealed the specific magic at play, a technique Vance recognized from his studies. The opponent confirmed Vance's suspicion, identifying the technique as barrier art. The opponent voiced a desire for a world without fighting, hoping his magic could serve as a deterrent. Acknowledging the contradiction, he recognized that his power aimed for a peaceful world. Reflecting on a past failure, he wished he could have wielded that same magic then. Lamenting his imperfect mastery of the power post-training, he realized he might have protected someone. Expressing regret over the incomplete barrier, he admitted its failure to save them. Noting the passage of millennia, he observed his renewed use of that same magic. Vance felt his world recede as a fourth technique struck him. His opponent marveled at Vance's barrier art, a magic unique to each empire's bloodlines. The opponent questioned why Vance hadn't used such potent magic earlier to shatter the barrier. Vance simply stated his reason: because you were strong. His opponent scoffed, accusing Vance of mockery and not taking the fight seriously. Vance countered that he'd drawn his blade to gauge his opponent's skills, admitting he needed his own power. He clarified that he'd employed the barrier art because he believed he would have lost without it. Panting, Vance acknowledged the fight would rage until the very end. Gasping for air, Vance braced himself to face whatever came next. Shadows flickering, Vance's pulse hammered as danger loomed closer. A whisper echoing in his mind, Vance clenched his fists to steady his resolve. Bracing himself, Vance felt the familiar, chilling spell seep into his bones. He recognized the magic as the same kind that had defeated him before. The teleportation magic activated, whisking him away from immediate danger. Victor felt a pang of recognition, a feeling he always associated with his sister Kanan. He recalled Kanan's profound attachment to their mother, a bond that seemed unbreakable. 1,000 years ago, Victor remembered a similar overwhelming sensation. Gerdo heard a voice call out, mentioning Kanan and Lloyd. He recognized the voice from earlier, a sound that had piqued his curiosity. The armored knight mused how strange it felt, as if a long time had passed since their last fight. Claudina confirmed Aurelis was present and well, then questioned the identity of the earlier voice. The scarred man hesitantly asked if he wasn't worth speaking to, calling himself a loser. Aurelis immediately reassured him, stating he was not a loser at all. She reminded him the winner of their illusion fight had the right to ask one thing of the loser. The scarred man, accepting his loss, asked Aurelis, the demon princess, to command him. His request was to be allowed to study in the same class as her from now on. Expressing his wish to build peaceful relationships by polishing everyone's magic abilities side by side. Asking her to consider him her classmate if she could grant his wish. Demonstrating his meaning with a gesture, he clarified what classmate implied. Acknowledging his duty to ask this, yet insisting it was his genuine wish. Dueling the demon princess, he deemed the best reward he could receive. Proclaiming the duel itself as the greatest reward he could ever achieve. Fearless, Lloyd seemed to react to the scarred man's words. Lloyd insisted the scarred man refrain from using such honorifics. The scarred man vowed to continue addressing Lloyd with respect until the day he finally won. He repeated his vow, then turned his attention to Aurelis. Someone grumbled, urging for Aurelis's punishment to be more severe. A voice defended Lloyd, then let out a strange, gleeful sound. Aurelis merely hummed in response. The scarred man commented on how truly serious Lloyd was. Someone called out to Lloyd, addressing him as Lloyd-chan. A man announced a desperate need for donations for their project, 6 princesses fall in love with God Guardian. Continuing, the announcement mentioned the Onai Empire's dorms and the Magic College Island. Highlighting urgent funding needs, the plea emphasized the project's divine inspiration and logistical demands. Detailing specific allocations, the request outlined dormitory construction and scholarship programs funded by donations. Urging immediate support, the call directed contributors to the official website or mobile app for transactions. Closing with gratitude, the message reiterated donors' role in advancing the project's sacred purpose. Hiyori felt a faint chill, as if she had just brushed against someone else's mana. A sudden sneeze escaped the silver-haired boy. He apologized, asking if the other person was all right, and noting the cool air. Someone observed that Hiyori's mana was, as always, distinctly different. Claudina addressed Eliseel, the Holy Imperial Princess, about her relationship with the Oni Princess, calling them old friends. She explained that as princesses, they had few friends their age and quickly bonded during meetings between humans and Oni. Eliseel expressed surprise, stating she had no idea Claudina had helped the Oni Princess escape her room. Claudina revealed that there were things she didn't know about her daughter, who was originally quite the tomboy. She believed attending college would improve her daughter's mood, but remained concerned, a sentiment echoed by another. Victor recalled a solitary figure, a stark contrast to the concern he felt from others, which he considered almost miraculous. He mused on the possibility that the demon princess might share that same sense of loneliness. Victor expressed his gratitude to Vance and the silver-haired boy for accompanying him. He stated his eagerness to meet the demon princess. Victor mentioned that the meeting depended on her health, but hoped everyone's concern would allow for a gathering. The sound of excited chatter filled the air. A guard insisted visitors could not enter, while another argued they should, believing Hiyori would welcome the demon princess's visit. The first guard interrupted, trying to explain the situation. He reiterated that Hiyori was not seeing anyone and asked them to leave, apologizing for the inconvenience. Victor recognized the guards as those belonging to the demon princess from a previous encounter. He noted the guards' burning hostility. Arguing, the second guard claimed Niku held no authority since Hiyori had accepted them, and the gate should open. With defiance, the silver-haired boy declared they would not be permitted to pass. A third guard stepped forward, gripping his weapon tighter as he spat a curse under his breath. Offering a bow, the armored knight requested Suzeri Denka's patience with measured regret. He requested to finish speaking with Niku Tai before proceeding, calling the timing perfect. Someone questioned the armored knight's presence before Suzeri-sama, then assured Ryan it was fine. They acknowledged that if it was a rule in the Oni country, they could do nothing, but they need not get involved. The instruction to observe from their current location was given, followed by a surprised exclamation. A voice stated this was not a show. Since witnesses were present, they could no longer ignore the situation, and someone declared they had to correct that attitude. It was noted this was a true battle, unlike an illusion fight, and it would be bad if anyone were injured. Someone observed Niu was not intimidating, but serious. The outcome rested on their discussion, and the speaker did not want Suzeri Denka's thoughtfulness to be in vain. Vance declared he was about to begin his attack. He unleashed a powerful Oni shadow art called Thunder 7 Arc. The second Guardian style Lost Traveler quietly observed the vision. That brief moment of observation was more than enough time. The thought occurred to insert himself between them. Using the first Guardian technique, Floating Leaf, he copied their mana to dispel their skills. Then came the third Guardian technique, Lunar Reflection. With a flick of his wrist, he redirected the mana flow to counter their spells. Finally, he sealed the clash with the seventh Guardian's Solar Flare. Someone questioned how he arrived and stopped their skills. Nika's name was called out. Vance questioned why the silver-haired boy had stepped in front of his attack. The silver-haired boy explained he knew Suzeri-sama intended to come. A guard from the Sky Empire wondered suspiciously why a guard would be present. Someone reminded the guard that Niku was the chairman and didn't know Vance's strength from his fight with Aurelius. All the princesses present acknowledged Lord Lid's strength. Then this meant Hiyori-sama did not acknowledge him. The guard reacted with surprise, then understanding dawned. He realized who Vance was, reminding him of someone. Victor stated he already knew Vance would stand his ground, regardless of his own feelings. A masked guard declared he now had to fight if he wanted Suseri Denka to meet the Oni princess. He repeated his demand, pondering if he should discuss things with the listener instead of Rakusha. Urging the community, the elderly man pleaded for financial support for their project. 6 princesses fall in love with God Guardian. Finally, the elderly man concluded his statement, indicating understanding had been reached. Addressing the group directly, the chairman announced his intent to speak. He then introduced the next topic, Chapter 22, titled The Raging Neek. Someone commented that Hiyori likely did not need to attend classes. Another voice insisted that the person should leave immediately. A character expressed awe at someone's strength, thinking, "He's really strong." The chairman mused that the demon princess seemed interested in attending school and wished to ask her directly. He added that the demon princess should be allowed to enjoy her school life. A sharp retort followed, questioning the boldness of suggesting school life was important, and that she should be with everyone. The speaker pointed out that the princesses only engaged in foolish arguments when they were together. Hiyori's name was called out. Vance exclaimed that the situation didn't need to escalate further, shouting, "Whoosh land!" A whoosh sound effect echoed. Vance observed his own slashes lingering on the ground, contemplating touching them. He mused that his opponent fought with more than just brute strength, showing tactical awareness. Vance realized the longer the fight dragged on, the more the battlefield would be covered in his slashes. He determined he had to end the fight quickly before he lost his footing. A character stated that Kanan could learn from her lessons without getting involved with them. The same character declared that their conversation was finished. The character announced the activation of Oni swordsmanship, Thunder 7 ARC. Vance recognized the 7 ARC technique, understanding the first blow was the strongest and needed to be blocked. He resolved to finish the battle before the opponent's 6 other attacks landed, fearing he would lose his footing. Vance admitted he couldn't continue blocking such powerful blows. Victor agreed that the class issue might not be easily resolved. He acknowledged that the continent faced the same problems 1,000 years ago. Victor believed that as long as people wished for peace, all fights would eventually end, even if it was just lip service. He insisted that the world and people could change if there were those who believed in it. Victor declared his intention to protect both the Oni princess school life and their feelings. Determined to safeguard both the Oni princess school life and their shared feelings, Victor vowed his commitment. His pledge to protect the Oni princess school life and their emotions became his unwavering mission. Guarding both the Oni princess school life and their feelings, Victor committed himself to their defense without hesitation. The armored knight noted Vance hadn't dodged the final slash. His shadow, mirroring his armor, was a manifestation of the Second Guardian style's shadow armor. The knight questioned if it was an illusion, surprised by the display. A gust of wind blew as the armored knight declared they were both guards. The masked guard stated their role was to protect. He clarified this didn't mean locking their liege in security. Instead, they had to protect their liege in the world they wished to see. He then asked if the speaker already knew this, questioning what world the Oni princess desired. The silver-haired girl recalled being told not to go outside, calling them the worst. The scarred man agreed it was awful they had imprisoned her. She yearned to meet everyone, as they had taken the outside world from her. She wondered when she had become like them. The silver-haired boy vowed to do his best to make the class a safe place. He added that Suziri Denka was also helping. The elderly man began. The silver-haired girl pleaded for assistance, stating others could help as well. Then she earnestly requested acceptance as Hiyori's friend. With tearful eyes, she emphasized the importance of unity. Hoping to inspire hope, she shared her own story of resilience. The silver-haired girl explained that due to past grudges between the human empire and their country, she needed to understand the true intentions behind arranging a meeting between Suziri and Hiyori. She apologized for her earlier rudeness toward one of Hiyori's companions. Niu's abilities were the response, followed by a bow. The silver-haired girl expressed relief, noting Hiyori's orders were to permit all visitors entry. Niu thanked the silver-haired girl for allowing entry, despite her personal reservations. The silver-haired girl apologized for attacking, but the other understood her concern for her princess's unstable health. The page turned, signaling a shift. Someone informed that Hiyori-sama might still be resting, but they were willing to wait for her to wake. They then announced they would proceed to guide the visitor. The path led toward Hiyori-sama. A plea for donations for the project 6 Princesses Fall in Love with God Guardian was displayed, citing financial difficulties. A URL was provided for reading more chapters of the project. Cold air enveloped them as they advanced, the chill intensifying with Hiyori's growing mana. With every step forward, the temperature plummeted, mirroring Hiyori's surging mana. Revealed at last was the chapter title, foreshadowing Frostbound Trials. An invitation beckoned, "Please come in." A thoughtful hum filled the air. The silver-haired boy asked Hiyori, calling her Suziri-chan, if they had woken her. He noted it had been a long time, and she had grown considerably. He added that the same applied to her, observing Hiyori looked like a grown-up now. Hiyori responded with a light laugh. Her eyes flickered as she regarded the man. She wondered aloud if she knew him. The silver-haired boy clarified that he was their classmate. The man then offered a polite greeting, saying it was nice to meet her. He remarked that Hiyori's mana was clear and pleasant, like a great river's flow. Someone expressed surprise that she could perceive uncolored mana. A character declared they were loud and fearless, taking on the role of chairman. The silver-haired boy asked Suziri if he could speak with her and Loud-san privately. He then announced they would take their leave, stating he wished to speak with Canon. Lloyd told the silver-haired boy he could handle it, even alone. The silver-haired boy glared, claiming he was only easing the tension. Silence. A cough echoed through the room. Someone asked if he felt unwell. He replied he was fine. Admitting he had simply relaxed too much, he stopped paying attention to his condition. Requesting they not mention it to Suziri, as she seemed very concerned. Clarifying his cough was not due to illness, he offered further details. Knowing Loud-san already understood the situation, he avoided elaborating. Stating the chill felt upon entering the mansion was mana leakage, he explained its source. 1,000 years ago, Arsmilia suffered the same symptoms. The silver-haired boy observed that Hiyori's mana was too strong, overflowing. Hiyori acknowledged he had already realized this. She explained that while she could control it, she would trouble everyone if she attended school in her current state. But silver-haired, the boy asked Hiyori if she wished to attend class. Hiyori hesitated as the scarred man pressed her to absorb more. Urging her forward, the scarred man pushed Hiyori to take in more. Acknowledging their recent meeting, he admitted his request felt intrusive. In the depths of the asylum, he explained witnessing a soul craving freedom beyond all others. With a bowed head, he apologized for his disrespect. Softly requesting Hiyori extend her hand from behind the blind, He awaited her response. The woman, speaking of a maternal role, offered her full support, wanting to do everything possible. But she asked Lloyd if her request bothered him. Lloyd assured her there was no issue. She pleaded with him not to force himself. The silver-haired boy recalled the scarred girl saw through him at their first meeting and spoke to him, hoping for change. He felt he had to succeed, or she would truly abandon all hope. That's why. He explained the mana cycle was about becoming the catalyst for her mana and preventing its excess from leaking. Freeze, freeze. The armored knight observed that it was indeed a lot of mana. Suddenly, a surge of mana pulsed, a stark contrast to the previous calm. Energy crackled around the knight, unseen currents threatening to overwhelm him. The observer questioned if this was the full extent of Hiyori's power. A chilling cold emanated, making the observer wonder if Hiyori had endured it alone for years. Urgently, a voice urged Hiyori to stay concentrated and maintain the flow of her power. Desperately, a voice pleaded with Hiyori not to lose herself. Frantically, a third voice warned her of the encroaching darkness. The observer noted Hiyori's mana had changed, now possessing a warm power. A reassuring voice declared that everything would be all right. By Hiyori's side stood Victor, a warm glow emanating from him. Radiance from Victor's form enveloped Hiyori in quiet comfort. With a newfound calmness, Victor felt his mana stabilize and flow. Hiyori explained she had absorbed Vance's excess mana and regulated his flow, offering to assist again if it felt stagnant. She assured Vance he could leave without worries. The silver-haired girl wondered if she could get along with everyone, as she hadn't met them yet, and suggested the entrance ceremony as a chance to make amends. She expressed her gratitude. The silver-haired girl thanked Lloyd for his efforts. An elderly man announced a critical need for donations to the 6 princesses Fall in Love with God Guardian project, citing their dire finances. He noted that while attendance was still significant, it was less than during the recent exam. Someone confirmed that many people were still present. A girl pleaded with someone not to let go, lest they become lost. Lloyd was respectfully hailed by name. Aurelis arrived, greeted by the silver-haired boy who addressed her as Your Highness. Aurelis shyly asked Lloyd for his opinion on her new attire. Lloyd complimented her, remarking that the mature look suited her perfectly. Aurelis thanked Lloyd excitedly, pleased he understood her intentions so well. Lloyd gently chided her, calling her childish excitement embarrassing for an adult. Elysiel called out to Aurelis. Elysiel suggested Aurelis retire for the night, reminding her of her duties as imperial princess and the need to be well rested. Aurelis responded with a hesitant well. Aurelis mentioned Rayunaya had left word to be called only when it was her turn before departing. Claudina inquired about Aurelis's business with Lloyd, who stated she only wished to congratulate him on his duel victory. Aurelis then asked if Lloyd would hear firsthand about battle results that did not favor him, questioning his earlier statement. The scene closed with a mention of both Lloyd and Kanon. Someone greeted Hiyori and Suzeri, noting their arrival together. The speaker observed that Hiyori seemed much improved since Lloyd's last visit. Another person exclaimed about Lloyd's visit, regretting they had not gone themselves and recalling Hiyori's earlier refusal. With a cheerful voice, Lloyd received a warm greeting from Kanon. The buffet's meat dishes drew Kanon's urgent recommendation, though the crowd around Lloyd made conversation difficult. Despite the crowd's noise, Kanon's laughter carried as they mentioned Hiyori's absence. Hiyori asked Suzeri if she could look around elsewhere for a bit. Suzeri apologized for the commotion and offered to accompany Hiyori, who declined, stating Raska was watching. With a sigh, Hiyori apologized to Suzeri for always causing her worry. Though hesitant, Hiyori lingered, glancing toward the shadows. The moment passed as she finally stepped away, nodding to Raska. Hey! The masked guard pleaded with Lord Neo to cease his non-profit work, reminding him they were both bodyguards. He then asked if he could speak with Lord Neo privately about Hiyori-sama, inquiring if it was permissible. Lord Neo agreed it was not convenient to talk there, acknowledging the request. Lord Neo then told Kanon he would return shortly after a brief conversation, to which she responded with a hesitant yes. She mused that her dear brother seemed to make more friends every time he crossed swords. A flicker of unease crossed her features as she watched his retreating figure. Moments later, the clatter of hooves signaled his departure, leaving her alone in the moonlit courtyard. The masked guard thanked Lord Neo, stating Hiyori's magic power had stabilized significantly since his intervention. Lord Neo expressed gladness at being helpful, but then hesitated with a but. The masked guard questioned if it was truly Hiyori's magic power alone that had caused the change. Lord Neo described how channeling Hiyori's magic power felt like a cold, snowstorm-like force crushing her naturally kind energy. The scarred man pressed Gerdo, certain he knew more about the situation. Gerdo explained that as a bodyguard of the Onai Empire, he couldn't disclose everything, but Hiyori was struggling with her power. He described someone who would shut herself away, building walls and avoiding precious connections. He mused that venturing outside for dreams might lead to finding something to love, but also pain. Victor regretted not trying harder to send someone away in the past. He repeated that he should have tried harder to send that person away. Victor admitted he still didn't know what he should do. He just wanted her to keep smiling. All Victor wanted was for Kanon to keep smiling. His hope was that Kanon's smile would never fade. With regret, he apologized for pushing her away again. Though he tried to bridge the gap, silence grew between them. Every laugh he offered felt like a hollow performance. To him, the celebration's energy belonged to a stranger's life. The crowd's noise blurred into a distant, meaningless hum. He knew that even if he stepped outside, nothing would fundamentally change for him. Hiyori admitted she could manage her power for now, but feared a future loss of control. The silver-haired boy asked if she was all right, his brow furrowed with concern. He wondered if the noise of the crowd had overwhelmed her, then realized she was reacting to something else. Hiyori simply responded with a soft, drawn-out exhale. Claudina stepped forward, politely addressing the group. Next, Claudina turned her attention to Aurelis, asking her identity. With keen attention, Claudina listened to the response, nodding thoughtfully. Afterward, Claudina introduced herself, detailing her role in the village. The silver-haired girl asked if he wanted to be alone, but then added her presence. She reminded Lloyd that a princess could not abandon her knight. Playfully, she asked if a knight would come to rescue her, calling out Lloyd's name. A surge of powerful, vanishing magic was suddenly exclaimed about.